Al-Raqqah, also called Raqqah, Raqqah and Al-Raqqah, is a city in Syria located on the north bank of the Euphrates River, about 160 kilometers east of Aleppo. It is located 40 kilometers east of the Tabqa Dam, Syria's largest dam. The city was the capital of the Abbasid Caliphate between 796 and 809, under the reign of Caliph Harun al-Rashid, with a population of 220,488 based on the 2004 official census. Al-Raqqah was the sixth largest city in Syria. As a result, the city has been hit by airstrikes from the Syrian government, Russia, the US, France, Jordan, and other Arab nations. Most non-Sunni structures in the city have been destroyed by ISIL, most notably the Shiite UWAI's Al-Khani Mosque. History: Hellenistic and Byzantine Kallinikos. The area of Al-Raqqah has been inhabited since remote antiquity, as attested by the mounds of Tal Zaydan and Tal al-Bia, the latter identified with the Babylonian city Tutul. The modern city traces its history to the Hellenistic period, with the foundation of the city of Nicaphora by the Seleucid king Seleucus I Nicator. His successor, Seleucus II Callinicus, enlarged the city and renamed it after himself as Kallinikos. In Roman times, it was part of the province of Boshern, but had declined by the 4th century. Rebuilt by the Byzantine Emperor Leo I in 466, it was named Leontopolis after him, but the name Kallinikos prevailed. The city played an important role in the Byzantine Empire's relation with Sassanid Persia and the wars fought between two states. By treaty, it was recognized as one of the few official cross-border trading posts between the two empires. In 542, the city was destroyed by the Persian ruler Khusrau, who razed its fortifications and deported its population to Persia, but it was subsequently rebuilt by the Byzantine Emperor Justinian I. In 580, during another war with Persia, the future Emperor Maurice scored a victory over the Persians near the city. During his retreat from an abortive expedition to capture Ctesiphon, in the 6th century, Kallinikos became a center of Assyrian monasticism. Deir Dmar, or the St. Zacchaeus Monastery, situated on Tal al-Bia, became renowned. A mosaic inscription there is dated to the year 509, presumably from the period of the foundation of the monastery. Deir Dmar is mentioned by various sources up to the 10th century. The second important monastery in the area was the Bizuna Monastery, or Deir Destuna, the monastery of the Column. The city became one of the main cities of the historical Diarmuida, the western part of the Jazara. In the 9th century, when Al-Raqqah served as capital of the western half of the Abbasid Caliphate, this monastery became the seat of the Syriac Patriarch of Antioch. Bishopric Callinicum early became the seat of a Christian diocese. In 388, Emperor Theodosius the Great was informed that a crowd of Christians, led by their bishop, had destroyed the synagogue. He ordered the synagogue rebuilt at the expense of the bishop. Ambrose wrote to Theodosius, pointing out he was thereby exposing the bishop to the danger of either acting against the truth or of death, and Theodosius rescinded his decree. Bishop of Damianus of Callinicum took part in the Council of Chalcedon in 451 and in 458 was a signatory of the letter that the bishops of the province wrote to Emperor Leo I the Thracian after the death of Proterius of Alexandria. In 518 Paulus was deposed for having joined the anti-Chalcedonian Severus of Antioch. Callinicum had a bishop Ioannis in the mid-6th century. In the same century, a Notitia Episcopatuum lists the diocese as a suffragan of Edessa, the capital and metropolitan see of Boshern. No longer a residential bishopric, Callinicum is today listed by the Catholic Church as an archiepiscopal titular see of the Maronite Church. early Islamic period. In the year 639 or 640, the city fell to the Muslim conqueror Iyad ibn Ghanm. Since then it has figured in Arabic sources as Al-Raqqah. At the surrender of the city, the Christian inhabitants concluded a treaty with Ibn Ghanm, quoted by al-Baladari. This allowed them freedom of worship in their existing churches, but forbade the construction of new ones. The city retained an active Christian community well into the Middle Ages. Michael the Syrian records 20 Jacobite bishops from the 8th to the 12th centuries, and had at least 4 monasteries, of which the St. Zacchaeus monastery remained the most prominent. The city's Jewish community also survived until at least the 12th century, when the traveler Benjamin of Tudela visited it and attended its synagogue. Ibn Ghanim's successor as governor of Al-Raqqah and the Jazzira, Said ibn Amir ibn Hidayam, built the city's first mosque. This building was later enlarged to monumental proportions, measuring some 73 times 108 meters, with a square brick minaret added later, allegedly in the mid-10th century. The mosque survived until the early 20th century, being described by the German archaeologist Ernst Herzfeld in 1907, but has since vanished. Many companions of Muhammad lived in Al-Raqqah. In 656, during the First Fitna, the Battle of Siffin, the decisive clash between Ali and the Umayyad Muawiyah took place California, 45 kilometers west of Al-Raqqah, and the tombs of several of Ali's followers are located in Al-Raqqah and became a site of pilgrimage. The city also contained a column with Ali's autograph, but this was removed in the 12th century and taken to Aleppo's Garth Mosque. The strategic importance of Al-Raqqah grew during the wars at the end of the Umayyad period and the beginning of the Abbasid regime. Al-Raqqah lay on the crossroads between Syria and Iraq and the road between Damascus, Palmyra, and the temporary seat of the Caliphate Safa, al-Ruha. Between 771 and 772, the Abbasid Caliph al-Mansur built a garrison city about 200 meters to the west of Al-Raqqah for a detachment of his Khorasani and Persian army. It was named Al-Rafiqah, the companion. The strength of the Abbasid imperial military is still visible in the impressive city wall of Al-Rafiqah. Al-Raqqah and Al-Rafiqah merged into one urban complex, together larger than the former Umayyad capital Damascus. In 796, the Caliph Harun al-Rashid chose Al-Raqqah, Al-Rafiqah as his imperial residence. For about 13 years Al-Raqqah was the capital of the Abbasid Empire, stretching from northern Africa to Central Asia, while the main administrative body remained in Baghdad. The palace area of Al-Raqqah covered an area of about 10 square kilometers north of the twin cities. One of the founding fathers of the Hanafi school of law, Muhammad ash-Shaybani, was chief Qadi in Al-Raqqah. The splendor of the court in Al-Raqqah is documented in several poems, collected by Abu al-Faraj al-Isfahani in his Book of Songs. Only the small, restored so-called Eastern Palace at the fringes of the Palace District gives an impression of Abbasid architecture. Some of the palace complexes dating to this period have been excavated by a German team on behalf of the Director General of Antiquities. During this period there was also a thriving industrial complex located between the twin cities. Both German and English teams have excavated parts of the industrial complex, revealing comprehensive evidence for pottery and glass production. Apart from large dumps of debris, the evidence consisted of pottery and glass workshops containing the remains of pottery kilns and glass furnaces. Approximately 8 kilometers west of Al-Raqqah lay the unfinished victory monument called Heraklion from the period of Harun al-Rashid. It is said to commemorate the conquest of the Byzantine city of Heraklion in Asia Minor in 806. Other theories connect it with cosmological events. The monument is preserved in a substructure of a square building in the center of a circular walled enclosure, 500 meters in diameter. However, the upper part was never finished, because of the sudden death of Harun al-Rashid in Khorasan. After the return of the court to Baghdad in 809, Al-Raqqah remained the capital of the western part of the empire including Egypt. Decline and period of Bedouin domination. Al-Raqqah's fortunes declined in the late 9th century, because of the continuous warfare between the Abbasids and the Tulunids, and then with the Shia movement of the Qarmatians. During the period of the Hamdanids in the 940s, the city declined rapidly. At the end of the 10th century until the beginning of the 12th century, Al-Raqqah was controlled by Bedouin dynasties. The Banu Numayr had their pasture in the Daya Muda, and the Uqaylids had their center in Kalat Jabbar. Second blossoming. Al-Raqqah experienced a second blossoming, based on agriculture and industrial production, during the Zangidum-Diabad period in the 12th and first half of the 13th century. Most famous is the blue-glazed so-called Raqqah ware. The still visible Bab Baghdad and the so-called Qasr al-Banat are notable buildings from this period. The famous ruler, Imad ad-Din Zangi, who was killed in 1146, was buried here initially. Al-Raqqah was destroyed during the Mongol Wars in the 1260s. There is a report about the killing of the last inhabitants of the urban ruin in 1288. Ottoman period. In the 16th century, Al-Raqqah again entered the historical record as an Ottoman customs post on the Euphrates. The eyalet of Al-Raqqah was created. However, the capital of this eyalet and seat of the Wali was not Al-Raqqah but Aruha, about 200 kilometers north of Al-Raqqah. In the 17th century, the famous Ottoman traveler and author Evliya Çelebi only noticed Arab and Turkoman nomad tents in the vicinity of the ruins. The citadel was partially restored in 1683 and again housed a Janissary detachment. Over the next decades, the province of Al-Raqqah became the center of the Ottoman Empire's tribal settlement policy. The city of Al-Raqqah was resettled from 1864 onwards, first as a military outpost, then as a settlement for former Bedouin Arabs and for Chechens, who came as refugees from the Caucasian war theaters in the middle of the 19th century. 20th century. In the 1950s, the worldwide cotton boom stimulated an unprecedented growth of the city, and the recultivation of this part of the Middle Euphrates area. Cotton is still the main agricultural products of the region. The growth of the city meant, on the other hand, a removal of the archaeological remains of the city's great past. The palace area is now almost covered with settlements, as well as the former area of the ancient Al-Raqqah and the former Abbasid industrial district. Only parts were archaeologically explored. The 12th century citadel was removed in the 1950s. In the 1980s, rescue excavations in the palace area began, as well as the conservation of the Abbasid city walls with the Bab Baghdad and the two main monuments intramuros, the Abbasid Mosque and the Qasr al-Banat. There is a museum, known as the Al-Raqqah Museum, housed in an administration building erected during the French Mandate period. Civil war. In March 2013, during the Syrian civil war, Islamist jihadist militants from Al-Nusra Front and other groups overran the government loyalists in the city and declared it under their control. After seizing the central square and pulling down the statue of the former president of Syria Hafez al-Assad, the Al-Qaeda-affiliated Al-Nusra Front set up a Sharia court of the sports center, and in early June 2013 the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant said they were open to receive complaints at their Raqqah headquarters. Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. Since the Battle of Raqqah in 2013, ISIL has been increasing its control over the city, at the expense of the Free Syrian Army and the Al-Nusra Front. By 13 January 2014, ISIL had taken complete control of Al-Raqqah. ISIL has executed Alawites and suspected supporters of Bashar al-Assad in the city and attacked the city's Shia mosques and Christian churches such as the Armenian Catholic Church of the Martyrs, which has since been converted into an ISIL headquarters. The Christian population of Al-Raqqah, which was estimated to be as many as 10% of the total population before the civil war began, has largely fled the city. On 15 November 2015, France, in response to the attacks in Paris of 2 days earlier, dropped about 20 bombs on multiple ISIL targets located in Raqqah. Climate. Transportation. Prior to the Syrian civil war, the city was served by Syrian railways.